All right. Hello, friends, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Dreambound. I am particularly excited for this episode because this is the episode where Noah and Cain meet up outside of Noah's house. I'm, first of all, so proud of Noah for getting out of the house. I believe I said that last episode. But then also, I'm just really excited for him to be hanging out with Cain more. Like I said, I've really liked Cain so far in this story, and I'm excited to see more of his specific route in this game. So let's hop in and see what happens. Though he had lived in this apartment for years, the surrounding area was still unfamiliar to him. Maybe I ought to take that as a sign that I really don't get out enough. Noah's thoughts were vague and oddly disconnected from reality as he walked the streets. He passed the odd pedestrian, catching out of context snippets of conversation in their wake, but they held no interest to him. Their faces might as well have been blank, like mannequins. Noah was certain this was reality. None of his dreams had ever been this mundane, but it did not feel like it. He could very well have been inhabiting a dream. How would he have known? This curious feeling did not abate even when Noah arrived, with his phone's help, at the park. If anything, the feeling was even stronger here. The park was located in the center of the city. It was vast to a disorienting degree, the freshly mown grass so green it hurt his eyes. It was well cared for, and it boasted numerous flower beds studded with all sorts of flora Noah could not name. He was an artist, not a botanist. He had painted flowers in the past, but their names were lost to him. Maybe August would have known what these flowers were called, but Noah could hardly ask him. He was not there. Noah shook his head. Then he hurried to the meeting spot Cain had designated. Fortunately for Noah, it did not take him long to find him. Cain was waiting for him on a bench by a fountain, like he had said. Noah couldn't help but notice how well pressed his clothes were. Everything about Cain was neatly pressed. Even his hair looked perfect, not a single strand out of place. There was a bit of a breeze, but not even it could rumple Cain's carefully put-together appearance. Perhaps it didn't dare. I don't even want to think about how I must look in comparison. Noah didn't feel particularly self-conscious as he approached Cain. He really didn't care enough. But he imagined they must have made a strange pair. Cain always looked pristine. He, unlike Noah, took his looks seriously, but he must have looked even more so in contrast to Noah. I just hope I don't draw too much attention to us. Noah approached Cain quietly. He did not bother to introduce himself, but that didn't matter. He didn't need to. Cain's head swiveled at the sound of Noah's approaching footsteps. It was remarkable, really, how he was able to pick Noah out from amongst a crowd, given the park was so popular. He must have been waiting. Noah! Cain's face lit up when he saw Noah, like a young boy's. Smiling, he waved him over. God, it's good to see you. I was honestly wondering whether you'd show up or not. Were you worried I would stand you up? Really? Do you want me to answer that honestly? Ouch. Anyway, no use dwelling on that unfortunate truth. I didn't invite you here so I could nag you. Lucky me. Cain's smile took on an awkward edge, but he did not press any further. Instead, he patted the bench beside him. Do you want to sit down? It's been a while since we really talked. Noah swallowed a sigh. He knew Cain didn't mean to get at him, he was just concerned. His concern was appreciated, but it would be easier if he didn't bother. Then again, I did come all the way out here. What does that say about me? Noah took a seat on the bench beside Cain, as he had instructed. Then he glanced around the park. The sunlight was much too bright for his sensitive eyes. Everything was too intense, the lights and the colors, all the noise, too. Why were there so many people? Noah had spent so long indoors he had forgotten just how intense the outside world could be. He squeezed his eyes shut in an attempt to calm himself, but it had little effect. The world blurred when he opened them. Everything looked faintly unrealistic, surrealistic. He might as well have been looking at an impressionistic painting. Or perhaps a dream. Noah had been pulled into dreams so often as of late, it had become hard to tell what was a dream and what was not. Reality and fantasy were no longer as clearly delineated as they had once been. It had all begun to blur together. Perhaps this, too, was a dream. Would it have been so strange if it was? It was stranger, almost, for Noah to take this as reality. It was nothing like the reality he had once known. Noah had spent so long indoors amongst his sullied canvases that he had almost forgotten what the sunlight looked like. He wasn't sure he liked it. If this was reality, a reality without August, then Cain could keep it. So, Noah. Cain's voice interrupted Noah's sluggish musings. It was awkward, unsure of itself. Cain never used to speak to Noah like this, not when they had been in school. That had been a long time ago, though. I was just wondering, how have you been holding up? Noah stared at Cain with disbelief, roused from his stupor by how laughably obvious his answer was. What do you think? I'm the same as always. Aren't I? Maybe I'm changing. Maybe I'm not. I don't know. Right. Cain sighed. Noah's answer had been bitter enough that it would not have been unthinkable if Cain had taken offense to it. Cain did not, however, look offended by Noah's spikiness. He did not even look surprised. Perhaps he had grown too accustomed to this newfound dynamic of theirs, Cain pushing while Noah pulled away. It was how things had been for years. You're right. I apologize. What a pointless question, huh? Sorry, I was being insensitive. Noah said nothing. He knew deep down that only one of them was being insensitive, and it wasn't Cain. Admitting as much was beyond his current capabilities, however. Look, Noah, I'm worried about you. That's the reason I asked. You're looking pale, even paler than usual, that is. You look tired, and those bags under your eyes didn't come from nowhere. You can see why I would be concerned, surely. Concerned. Noah echoed this remark flatly, his eyes devoid of emotion. Listlessly, he scanned the park. You're starting to sound like my mother, you know. Well, not my mother, but someone's mother. Yeah, well, someone's got to care about you. You certainly don't. I know. I know you care. It's appreciated, but am I nagging too much? No more than usual, I guess. I'm nothing but not reliable, I suppose. That's one word for you. Oh? I'd love to know some of the other words you use to describe me. Insufferably caring, knowingly considerate, stupidly charming. Wow. There sure are some words. Once again, Noah sighed. He himself could only be described as reliable nowadays, in the sense that he was reliably unreliable. Well, I'll take it. One of us has to be reliable and considerate and all of that. Otherwise, nothing would get done. I knew you were going to say that. You used to say that back in school, too. Really? Cain smiled. I didn't realize I was so predictable. Predictable is good, sometimes. It's not too dull. It's dull in a good way. I suppose I'll take that as a compliment. Haven't you been sleeping, though? You look like you're about to pass out. I've been trying, and not succeeding. Noah shook his head. It's hard to sleep lately. I mean, it's been hard for a while, but you already know that. Lately, however, when I try to sleep, I keep dreaming instead. Dreaming, huh? Kane's brow furrowed. The full meaning of these words, cryptic though they might have sounded, were not lost on him. When you say that, you're not talking about normal dreaming, are you? I don't know how other people dream, but probably not. It shouldn't be too much of a surprise. Nothing I do has been normal lately. I see. So you're still getting involved in all of that. Kane inhaled. He hooked his fingers together, which were resting on his lap. Then his voice dropped to a whisper. Does that mean you've seen more things? Just like we saw with Mr. Floyd? Yeah. Noah. Kane's voice took on a chastising tone, a tone which, once again, reminded Noah of a mother. Not his own mother, but how he thought a mother should be. I thought I had told you to keep away from those dreams. That place, I don't know very much about it, but it didn't feel safe. What if you got trapped there? What if you were hurt? I doubt any dream could hurt me much more than reality. But though this might surprise you, I don't actually have a death wish. I didn't want to go back to those dreams. I didn't have a choice. Ivan twisted my arm, so to speak. Ivan? Kane pulled a face, one which seemed out of place with his pristine white shirt and smooth, well-brushed hair. Why is that weirdo hanging around you so much? He's like a bad smell. I mean, he is weird, yeah. I don't even think he would disagree with that. And you've been spending more time with him of your own free will? I have. Though it wasn't necessarily by choice. So he's been essentially stalking you. I don't know if stalking is exactly right. He's certainly been breaking and entering my apartment a lot. Ugh. Kane's disgruntled expression deepened. I knew there was something fishy about him the moment I saw him. He looks like trouble. It sounds like he's been causing you trouble, too. I feel like he causes everybody trouble. I don't think I'm very special in that regard. He doesn't really care about anything or anyone. He and I are similar. You're not like that, Noah. You care about plenty of things. Like? Noah simply nodded. He hasn't gotten you involved in anything shady, has he? He almost made me an accomplice in a heist, I suppose. What? I mean, he stole an apple. I did pay for it, though. Noah frowned. But he really did dine and dash the other day. I got caught up in that, but shit. Kane exhaled. What an asshole. He seems to pride himself on the fact. Why did you go out to eat with him in the first place? Ivan, he doesn't really ask. I needed information and he promised it if we got food. Then the asshole pulled me into a dream and didn't answer a single thing. He pulled you into a dream? To avoid paying his bill, yes. A little dramatic, in my opinion. No shit. Kane exhaled slowly through his nostrils. His expression was harried, his lips pinched together as though in an attempt to avoid saying something aggressively un-Kane-like. Noah observed his friend mutely, intrigued by the emotions which had gripped him. It wasn't like Kane to lose his temper. That was more Noah's forte. He really must have disliked Ivan. So this dream he pulled you into. Kane eventually spoke once he had calmed down to a sufficient degree. Was it anything like the dream we saw earlier with Mr. Floyd? Well, there wasn't a dungeon this time, but other than that, it was similar. And did you find out whose dream it was? Asher's. This time, Kane's eyebrows shot up his forehead until they were practically swallowed by his hairline. Not your brother's. I suppose Asher isn't all that common of a name. Yes, my brother. Noah picked idly at a loose thread emerging from the cuff of his jacket his gaze vague, almost sightless. Did you talk to him? Noah nodded. Wouldn't that be the first time you talked to him in, what, months? Years? Something like that. Wow, that sounds like a fun family reunion. I was beside myself with glee. Kane smiled at his deadpan remark, though his smile did not endure. There was not much to smile about, really, when it came to Noah's fraught relationship with his older brother. And how was Asher? About the same as always. So he was his usual unpleasant self. He didn't seem very pleased to see me. The feeling was mutual. Tch. Kane snorted. I guess there's another guy who hasn't changed. It's nice to know he's just as much of an ass in his dreams as he is in real life. I wouldn't have expected anything less. He's always had it out for me. It's what I thought, at least, but... Noah frowned. Then he told Kane everything he had seen in Asher's dream the previous day. He told him about the gates and the people waiting by them, Asher's teacher, Asher's landlord, and Reuben. Asher seemed kind of surprised to see me there. It was almost like, I don't know, like he knew that something was up, I suppose. You mean he was aware he was asleep? Not exactly. I don't think he was completely lucid. I mean, he was asleep, but some of the things he said to me, I don't know. He seemed pretty alarmed when I told him I knew he'd failed his classes and that he hadn't been paying his rent. It definitely flustered him. Maybe that's why he opened up to me. I'm not exactly sure. But he was a lot more earnest than he usually is. He wasn't just putting me down like he usually does. Instead, it was like we were able to have a real conversation. I see. It's a good thing, I guess, but no matter how realistic it might have felt, it was a dream. Well, I know that. I've already said as much. I'm not about to get dreams and reality mixed up. Are you sure, Noah? Even if the borders between them have begun to get rather hazy. I'm not delusional, it's just... Dreams are built by the people who dream them. That was Asher's dream, so it should stand to reason that the Asher in his dream wouldn't be close to the real thing. I mean, it's not like he started preaching about world peace. He was still a smug bastard. He was just slightly less smug and bastard-like than usual. Now I'm almost sorry I missed it. Sounds like something I'd like to see. It wasn't that exciting, really. It was kind of sad, mostly. Yeah? Yeah. If that dream had any bearing in reality, then I don't think Asher's been doing too well. Well, Kane scoffed. Serves him right. You don't feel sorry for him, do you, Noah? Yes. Not particularly. I am curious, though. I mean... Noah readjusted himself on the bench. Pensively, he looked out over the park, his brow furrowed. He texted me earlier. No kidding. Yeah. Noah nodded, his expression grim, his lips pressed together. He asked if we could talk, which was unusual, coming from him. We've not spoken in ages. I mean, hell, he didn't even call me after our parents died. For him to contact me like this, out of the blue, right after that dream, I think it has to be related. Do you think he remembered it, then? I'm not sure. I couldn't really say, but there was a person in Asher's dream who seemed to know about all of this dream stuff. She said she was doing research on the subject at university, the same university Asher's attending, actually. Apparently she and Asher even used to be dating. For a little while, at least. Maybe Asher knows something about dreams, too, if he's been hanging out with people like that. It isn't impossible. Huh. Well, I'll be. I didn't think this was the sort of topic that would be studied in universities. It sounds a bit too... fake, I guess. I was surprised, too. I doubt it went over well with her professors. You're telling me? I think I understand what's going on, though, more or less. Do you now? That's funny. I'm the one who's caught dead center in all this madness, and I have no idea. All this time I've been groping around in the dark. If I hadn't been pulled into Mr. Floyd's dream myself, I'd worry all that isolation has gotten into your head. I'd be tempted to haul you to a hospital right about now. But with all that stuff we saw before, can't do anything but believe it. Well, I'm glad you aren't doubting my sanity. I have doubted it in the past. Nothing if not honest. But I trust you, Noah. I really do. Still. Kane offered Noah a crooked smile. The dream stuff I can just about wrap my head around, but all this shit with Asher? That really is unreal. I was surprised when he texted me too. It didn't seem very like him. No shit. I don't think I'd want to give him the time of day if I were in your position. But this isn't about me. What about you? Do you want to see him? I'm not sure. Noah frowned, his interwoven fingers resting on his thighs. I've been thinking about it, turning over our relationship in my head. I know we never got along. He was always an insufferable prick to me. That's something of an understatement. But he sounded sincere enough in that dream. I don't know if he remembers everything that happened, but it might be a good basis for a talk. I think we've been overdue one. Well, yeah, you're overdue by a good few years, I reckon. If he didn't care to talk to you earlier, I'm not sure why he'd want to now. I can't imagine Asher, of all people, having a change of heart. Me neither. But I couldn't imagine my perfect older brother failing any classes or forgetting to pay the rent, either. True, there is that. So, did you reply to him? Not yet. I wanted to think over my options. I'm leaning towards yes, though. There's a lot I want to say to him. And who knows? He might know something about all this. Or maybe he knows somebody who does. Daisy sounded like she knew her stuff. Kane frowned. I see where you're coming from, but I wouldn't want to put too much of my faith in Asher. He'll only end up disappointing you. Please. Noah sighed. You don't need to tell me that. I'm well aware this is probably going to go badly. Well, so long as you're aware. I'd hate for you to put too much stock in this dream, only for him to act like his usual unpleasant self when you see him again. It's best not to get your hopes up where he's involved. I know. I'm the one who had to grow up with him. You told me enough about his antics over the years. That was only the tip of the iceberg. Did he do worse than tossing your shit into the river? He did all sorts of things. Grand gestures like that weren't too uncommon, but he always treated me like I was worse than trash. I guess he wasn't wrong about that, at least. You're plenty, Noah. It's not easy, living with somebody who's determined to whittle down your self-esteem. And I had to deal with 3 of them. And you still want to see him, despite all of that. I feel like I have to. I've been letting things slide for too long. Maybe I should stop running from the past. Isn't that what you wanted? I've only ever wanted you to be happy, Noah. And I don't think you've been running from the past. I think you've been dwelling in it. I don't see how seeing Asher now, after all this time, would help. Then you think it's a bad idea. If you were asking for my opinion, I'd say it's a bad idea. But your life is your own. I can't make that decision for you. Kane relented after a pause. You have to live it as you see fit. I can't tell you what to do, and I wouldn't want to, either. You don't need my approval to make your own decisions. Of course not. I am an adult. Though I sometimes wonder whether you realize it. Yes, of course you are. Kane exhaled, and, though he did not say as much, Noah had to wonder if there was an unspoken, you don't always act like it, lingering beneath Kane's inscrutable expression. I know how things are between you and Asher, though. Some of the things he said to you. Hell, some of the things he did to you. Kane frowned. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, let alone my own brother. How could he treat you like that is a mystery. I don't think it's that mysterious, really. Oh? Noah shook his head. The answer is simple. He's an asshole, like you said. Always has been. Riley, Kane smiled. On that point, at least, we're in agreement. I thought you'd be all for it. It'll get me out of the house, at least. Yes, and back to your old place. I doubt there are many good memories there. Noah did not fail to note the way Kane said his brother's name, as though he was speaking of a particularly nasty infestation of cockroaches. There was something reassuring about it. Asher had always been their parents' golden child. It was nice to know that Kane, at least, could see past all that bullshit. Will you really be okay being back there, alone? I won't know unless I try, I guess. Let me come with you. If nothing else, I have a car, and it'll make the whole trip a lot more bearable for you. Huh? Noah, who had not expected this suggestion, sat in shock. Are you being serious? Why wouldn't I be serious? This is a serious situation. I don't think Asher would actually hurt you, but I feel like having someone by your side will make it easier on you. Having me around might compel him to act like a semi-decent human being for a change, too. He always cared about appearances, didn't he? It seems unlikely he'll try anything too unpleasant if there's a witness around. I like to think I can keep him in check. That's appreciated, but what about your job? Thought you had a lot of responsibilities. Is that really something you can hand-wave so you can come with me to the middle of nowhere? That'll be fine. Kane replied with a literal wave of his hand, as if to brush aside Noah's earlier inquiry. This probably won't come as a surprise, but I'm a model employee in each and every regard. I've never once been late, I do a lot of overtime, and I've not taken a single sick day all year. You really are a perfect person. It's enough to make me wonder why you bother spending time with me at all. I don't know about perfect, but I try my best. Kane replied with a wry smile, running one hand, as he did, through his hair. I do have quite a lot of goodwill banked up as a result, and I have a lot of paid leave I can take. I don't think my boss will mind if I put in a request for a holiday. Taking a week off should be fine. Still a week you could be in the office. A week I'd rather spend with you, especially if you're going back to our hometown. I've not been there in ages, either. It might be nice to go back, see the sights, catch up with some people. Make it sound like a fun vacation. People are dying, Kane. I know that. I guess I'm just trying to see the positive side to all this. If you can see any positives to this, you're a damn sight more optimistic than I am. Well, I already knew that. Kane grinned, while Noah frowned. All of a sudden, he felt rather exhausted. He had not planned to take Kane with him on this trip, but he had no longer had the energy to try and fight with him. What was the point? Kane might have been a model employee, but as far as friends went, he was incredibly stubborn. Kane's stubborn streak had often annoyed Noah in the past. But it's probably a good thing he's like this. If he wasn't, he never would have put up with me for so long. Alright, you can come back with me, I guess. I don't think Asher will be pleased. But he's never pleased about anything. Why are you doing all this for me, though? Isn't it a pain? Noah, please. Spending time with you is never a pain. Noah did not reply to this blatant lie. Instead, he raised an eyebrow, which made Kane chuckle. Alright. Spending time with you isn't always the easiest thing in the world, but the most fulfilling things in life aren't. Besides, we're friends. We're in this together. As crazy as all this is. If you find yourself in over your head, you need somebody to haul you back. I'm sure you'd do the same for me. I think you're putting a bit too much faith in me. Noah pressed his lips together and shook his head. I can tell you won't back down on this. Good, I'm glad my persistence finally paid off. But you ought to be careful. Of Asher, you mean? Him too, but there's something strange about all this dream stuff. Beyond the obvious, I mean. Such as? I realized it earlier today when I was looking through that yearbook you got for me. All of the people who've been dying, they're all related to me in some way or another. I thought it might have been a coincidence at first, but with my parents, then Sebastian, it feels deliberate somehow. I didn't notice that. You really are smart sometimes, aren't you? Very rarely. Hey, I remember that 98 you got back in high school. How can you remember something like that? I guess it's not only my looks that are fantastic, but my memory, too. But back to the whole dream thing. Kane frowned. Do you think somebody's targeting you? I don't really think I'm important enough for somebody to bother. But it's possible. I don't know who's behind this or what their end goal is, but if they are targeting people I know, you could be next. There aren't many people out there who know me better than you do. Kane grinned. You mean to say you're worried about me? Should I not be? No, I'm not saying that. I'm flattered, actually, that you care that much. But it feels like a bit of a role reversal. Usually I'm the one who worries about you. You know, you don't have to treat me like a charity case. I can take care of myself. And yet, despite your claims, you've done a shockingly poor job at it. Just because I can take care of myself doesn't mean I want to. Which means somebody has to step in. Aren't you fortunate you have such a considerate best friend? Kane nudged Noah in the shoulder, albeit gently. He did not use as much pressure as he would have in the past when they were in high school. Too much time had passed since then, and the easy physicality of their past friendship had dwindled. Though Kane still smiled around Noah, even his smiles seemed somewhat guarded. The distance between them might have been shrinking, but their relationship was still strained. Was it possible for things to return to the way they were? I'd be lying if I said I didn't have some concerns about this, but that's all the more reason for me to stick with you. Though it does occur to me that all the people who've been caught up in these dreams weren't the nicest to you, and that's an understatement. I'm confident that I've only ever been a good friend to you, though. Maybe that counts for something. Noah fell silent, his expression pensive. He still had no idea who was behind the events of the last few weeks, but Kane did raise a good point. Noah had been on poor terms with his parents, and Sebastian had bullied him in school. Then there was Mr. Floyd, who had betrayed Noah's trust, and Asher, who had always been an asshole. These people were all related to Noah, but they had done nothing except cause him pain, both in the past and the present, okay? I have thoughts. Was that another point of connection between them? Could some meaning be gleaned from it? Noah was unsure. He didn't have enough information. With some luck, however, this could be rectified after returning to his hometown, with Kane in tow. You know, I just thought of something. What? If there's one person I wouldn't mind getting caught up in all this, it's Luca. Luca? Now there's a name I've not heard in some time. There's a name Noah had tried not to think about, too. Nothing good had ever come from associating with Luca Bellworth. Yeah, that guy's an ass. If anybody deserves to get shut away in a cell, it's that guy. I doubt he'd dream about being in a cell. He never struck me as the penitent sort. Knowing him, not that I did much want to know him, he'd be some sort of lord, oppressing all the peasantry. He always used to act like the world owed him a living, and that was back in school. It was so long ago now, I'm not used to thinking about it so much. Sorry, all of this talk about going back home must have gotten me thinking. It's fine, I've been doing a lot of thinking too. Though not about Luca. The less I have to think about him, the better. Seriously, fuck that guy. There was little point in dwelling, however, on Luca. It had been many years since Noah had last seen him, years, too, since he had last thought of him. It was strange that Kane could still recall him when he had been a more persistent thorn in Noah's side. Noah wasn't aware that the two had any kind of relationship. Anyway, you're set on coming with me? Dead set. I've already made up my mind. Hell, I'd offer to drive you back now if I didn't have some work that needs wrapping up back in the office. Will it take a while? Not too long. I should be done in a couple of days. Then there shouldn't be anything stopping me from taking a bit of much-deserved leave. But until then... Kane frowned. He seemed to be grappling with a decision for a few moments. Noah could practically hear the gears in his mind ticking before he spoke. Do you want to stay at my place for a bit? Oh, Kane, interesting. Your place? Kane nodded. We've already established the people being targeted in their dreams are related to you. It could be a coincidence, even if it is, as you said, unlikely, but I don't want to take any chances. I believe in safety in numbers, and I think you'll be better off with me. I'd rather not leave you on your own. Noah fell silent. It was a sweet sentiment, he supposed, but these attacks aren't happening in the real world, though. If I get dragged into more dreams, it doesn't matter where my physical body is. You still won't be able to protect me. I know, the killer, whoever they are, has to have a physical form. There's no reason why they couldn't hunt you down. If that did happen, I'd rather be around. It would be good for my own peace of mind, if nothing else. And I don't trust that Ivan. You said he'd been hanging around you lately. He's more or less moved into my place. He's being persistent. So a complete stranger shacks up with you and refuses to leave. Around the same time, all these people start dying. Great. That's not at all suspicious. Do you suspect Ivan? I think it would be foolish not to, given the circumstantial evidence being what it is. Once more, Noah fell silent. He supposed Kane did have a point. He had thought Ivan's sudden appearance had been suspicious, especially given the timing of it. His involvement in the current going-ons was indisputable. Just how involved he was, however, was more of a mystery. Yeah, okay. I'll come with you. Alright, I see where you're coming from. I can't say I care too much what might happen to me, but it's obvious Kane does. I've made him worry enough already, so... If it'll make you feel any better, I can come with you. It's fine. And now you say that as though you're doing me a favor. Wish you cared about yourself a bit more. Kane's voice trailed off. Then, he sighed. He had been smiling with Noah earlier while they had been speaking, and once he had even chuckled. His smiles had disappeared now, however. Noah might have accepted Kane's invitation, but he still did not look happy about it. His brow was furrowed, his expression stony. Noah could not read it. He had no idea what Kane was thinking in that instant. And this thought was far more unnerving than Noah had ever imagined it might be. The two wound back through the park, retracing Noah's steps back to his apartment. All right, and with that, I think I'm going to end this episode here. My goodness, that was a really long, just honestly boring talk. Like, I'm the one playing, and I'm bored by what I've done in this episode. I think it's especially boring because it's things that we already knew about. So, telling Kane is kind of like summarizing for us what has happened so far. But we already saw it, so we don't need to know about it again. We lived it. Definitely not my favorite episode in this series, but you know what? It's over. We got through it, and I am excited to see what happens next. So, I'm going to end this episode for now. Thank you for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one for some more Dreambound.